So hello everyone, in our previous lecture we had covered about the civic society of the India. In this chapter we are going to have a look on the economics part. Okay, so let's start. The first question is, if we should come in our mind, is what do you mean by economics? What is the meaning of economics? Basically there are the resources. There are the resources which could be used for production and production of the various things like food, electricity, transportation, and so many things. Okay, and remember the fact that these resources are limited in number, and whenever the things are in limitation, then there is a must condition that they should be used in an effective way. So basically economics is a study which helps us to deal with the production, distribution and consumption of the goods and services in the effective way or up to the optimum uses. Got it? So this is about the economics introduction. Okay, concepts like demand and supply, market structure, national income, inflation and economic policies are the part of the economics. Okay, so let's understand them one by one. So first is demand. What do you mean by demand? Demand is basically a feasible wish. Like feasible wish means the wish which you could fulfill. Like this is a person who requires 10 rupees chocolate and he has 10 rupees. Then this is a feasible demand which is a part of this is a feasible wish which is a part of demand, whereas the person requires 20 rupees chocolate but he only has rupees 10 in his pocket. So can he buy it? So the answer is no. Then this is called desire. Okay, so they are basically two words, demand and desire, which I have explained you. Demand is a feasible wish, means you are wishing for something and you can actually afford it, then it's a demand. And desire is you are wishing for something but you cannot afford it, so this is a desire. Okay, supply basically means supplying the goods. Like this is a person who requires a chocolate, that is a person who supplies. Okay, so he demanded and he supplied. Got it? So supplying the goods and services comes under the supply and demanding the goods and services comes under the demand. Okay, market structure like the open market, closed market, and semi-open market. We will have a discussion on these types of structure in our upcoming lectures. Okay, in detail. Till then, just remember that there are several types of market: open market, closed market, and semi-open markets. Also, we have a market like perfect market, like monopoly, like monopolistic, like oligopoly. Okay, so we will have a discussion on these types of market in our upcoming lectures. Till then, remember this: national income is basically total income earned by nation during a time period. Then it's a part of national income or total income. Got it? Suppose there are 100 people living in a country and each of them earn rupees 10. Then the national income is rupees 10. But this income should be earned in this income should be earned in a definite time period. Okay, so let's suppose these people earn this income in 100 days. 100 days is a definite time period, then only it called be as a national income. Got it? Now come to the next point, which is understanding economics helps in analyzing the factors influencing economic activities. Like the basic question of economics are what to produce, how to produce, with whom to produce. Like the first should be what to produce. Like what are the things which you need to produce. Okay. So second question is how to produce. Like you should employ more labor or you should invest more on machines, which comes under the common term of capital. Okay. And third is whom to produce, like who will be the consumers of the goods and services. Okay, so these are the three basic questions of the economics: what to produce, how to produce, whom to produce. In how to produce, there are two techniques. First is labor, second one is capital. In labor, more and more human work is required, but in capital, machines are required instead of humans. Okay, and when you start learning the economics, then you will be able to find the answer of these questions. Got it? Now come to the first topic, which is the economic planning. As I have told you that the resources which we use are limited in numbers. Got it? Okay, so we are required some planning before using them, and these planning previously known as the 5-year plans. Okay, and the governing body which was responsible for formulating these 5-year plans was the Planning Commission. Which was established on 15 August 1950. Got it? Planning Commission. But the question is, what do you mean by the 5-year plans? Basically, 5-year plans were made after considering the three questions of economics, which I have told you: what to produce, how to produce, and whom to produce. So these were the basic questions behind the planning, but in a modular form. Like what to produce, what are the steps which the economy is required to be taken. Second is how to produce, how these steps could be taken. And third is whom to produce, like what will be the consequences and what will the positive and negative sides when we were taking these steps. Okay, so all these terms and all these considerations were come under the 5-year plans. Got it? The first is actions to be taken. Second is how they could be taken. And the third is outcome of the planning. Okay. So this planning which we made during the 5-year plans was required to be fulfilled before the ending of the 5-year plans. Got it? Like the first 5-year plan was implemented in the year of 1951 to the year of 1956. There were several targets. There were several targets which were taken into consideration while formulating the first 5-year plans. Okay. And these targets were required to be fulfilled before the 1956. Okay. So this was the 5-year plans, which was the responsibility of Planning Commission. Planning Commission. Okay. Remember, later the Planning Commission was exchanged with the Niti Aayog. The Planning Commission was shut down and the Niti Aayog was formulated, for which Niti stand for New Institute for Transforming India. New Institute for Transforming India, or Niti Aayog, was established and replaced the Planning Commission. Okay. So the first 5-year plan was from 1951 to 1956 and the last 5-year plan was from 2012 to 2017. Got it? And there were total 12 5-year plans. There were total 12 5-year plans. Got it? Now come to the next point, is the economic reforms. Basically, the economic reforms were introduced in the year of 1991 under the term of New Economic Policy. New Economic Policy, which was launched by the Mr. Manmohan Singh. Which was launched by Mr. Manmohan Singh, who was the finance minister. Who was the finance minister of that time. Okay. So Mr. Manmohan Singh was behind the new economic policy, which was introduced in the year of 1991. So let's understand why the new economic policy was required. Because before 1991, India was a semi-closed economy. Semi-closed economy, because we had licenses, we had fixed quantities, no trade with foreign, government control. So these are the some main reasons. Because first reason is licenses. Before 1991, India had a tradition that if someone wants to start a business, then he or she is required to obtain licenses from the government, which was a Herculean task. Because you had to visit so many departments of the government and then only you would be able to obtain a license for production. Okay. Second one is the fixed quantity. Basically, in 1991 or before the 1991, the Indian government had restricted over production of the quantities producing in the factory. Like a factory owner can only produce 100 quantities or 200 quantities. 100 quantities and 200 quantities, or basically you can say 100 to 100 quantities, and basically you can say there was a complete control of the government on the production quantities. Number 3 was no trade with foreigners. Basically, Indian government controlled the trade at this extent that the private owners were not allowed to do a trade with the foreigners or trade with the foreign companies without the permission of the government, which was again the Herculean task to obtain the permission from the government. And the last one was the government control, because the government was fully indulged in the trade practices and the private players were not allowed to do their trade by their own. Okay. Due to these restrictions, the Indian economy was suffering before 1991. And in 1991, the government, or mainly the Manmohan Singh, who was the finance minister of that time, he introduced the policy which was called the New Economic Policy, and also for the LPG, where also called the LPG, where L stands for liberalization, P stands for privatization, G stands for globalization. Globalization. So during liberalization, licensing and fixing of quantity were removed. For privatization, various government owned enterprises open to private, or basically you can say the government owned enterprises which were suffering the huge losses because of the government activities were open to the private players, so that the private players could come and invest in these enterprises and could raise a business from them. And thereafter, the globalization means foreign trade was allowed. The Indian private players were allowed to obtain the foreign technologies and also to obtain a trade with the foreign companies for their profit and for their benefits. Okay, and there is a two concepts known as the FDI and FII, which were introduced during this time. These concepts were: FDI stands for foreign direct investments, and then FII stands for foreign institution investment. Okay, so these two terms were introduced during this time. Okay, so what do you mean by FDI and what do you mean by FII? Basically, these terms are also in the news during this time. Okay, so let's understand. So let's understand these terms. The first is FDI. When foreign business built manufacturing or factory or business unit in India. Okay, so basically FDI stands for when foreign business build manufacturing or factory or business unit in India, then it's come in the term of FDI. Okay, foreign direct investments. But when FII, when foreign business only purchase stakes in Indian companies, then it comes in the term of FII. Okay, so understood. Now come to the next point, which is for the economic sectors. Here we have learned about the economic reforms of LPG 1991. Now let's come to the economic sectors. So basically economic sectors are the agriculture. Agriculture stands for primary sector. Thereafter manufacturing, stands for the secondary sector. Thereafter, the services stands for the tertiary sector. All right. So these are the economics sectors. So let's understand them by one. First is agriculture sector. In our previous lecture, I had told you that agriculture nearly support 70 to 80% in GDP. GDP stands for gross domestic production. Gross domestic production. Okay. So basically agriculture contributes about 70 to 18% in the GDP and nearly or more than 50% of workforce involved in the agriculture. Got it? Now come to the two new names which we should discuss here. First is GDP and second one is GNP. Okay. The first is GDP, gross domestic product, stands for total goods and services produced in the country. Okay. So when the total goods and services produced in the country are taken into consideration, then this is a part of GDP. Whether these are produced by the nationals or foreigners. But if these goods and services have been obtained and have been produced within the country, then they will be a part of GDP. Got it? Second one is gross national products. Total goods and services produced by nationals. Okay. But when we are only considering the goods and services which are produced by the nationals, then it is a part of GNP. Got it? Remember one thing, that the agriculture is also provide raw materials for the industries like the sugar industry through sugar cane and like the heavy industries of iron and steel through mining of ores. Okay. And also for the food industry through cultivation, through hunting, through fishery, through fishing and others. Got it? Now come to the next one, is the industry, which is a part of manufacturing sector, and manufacturing sector is a part of secondary sector. Got it? And basically this sector contributes nearly about 24% in the GDP of the country. Okay. India has a diverse industrial sector including manufacturing, mining, textile, pharmaceutical, automobiles and more. Remember, mining is basically a part of the primary. But because sometimes a major business houses are involved in the mining practices, so that's why they are also considered as a industrial part. Got it? For manufacturing and the automobiles, we had a corridors like the Chennai. For pharmaceuticals, we had corridors like the Gujarat, like the Mumbai, like the Pune. Okay. And for manufacturing, like the Delhi, NCR. NCR stands for National Capital Region. Got it? Thereafter, services, which is a part of tertiary sector. Which is a part of tertiary sector. Remember, in our previous lecture, I had told you that service sector of India contributes nearly about 53% of the total GDP. Total GDP, or you can say it is the largest contributor of Indian GDP. Largest contributor of the Indian GDP. Okay. And here the IT services, which is the largest component, and its largest component is IT services, which bring nearly about 280 billion USD, or you can say USD stands for United States dollars. Okay. So basically the IT services of India nearly earns about 280 billion US dollars per annum. Okay. And for IT sector, we have a main hub, which is the Bangalore and Hyderabad hub. They both together known as Silicon Valley of India. Got it? And the Silicon Valley of world, the Silicon Valley of world is California, lies at USA, United States of America. Got it? Now come to the next point, which is the fiscal policy. Fiscal policy basically maintained by the central government. It is basically the borrowing and expenditure. Okay. The how much government will borrow and how much the government will spend is basically the fiscal policy. The fiscal policy is basically the difference between government expenditure and the revenue. How much the government has expended and how much the government has earned. Okay. So basically, if the expenditure is equal to the revenue, then it's called the stable condition. When the expenditure is higher than the revenue, it is called the negative situation. Whenever the expenditure is lower than the revenue, then it's called the positive situation. Got it? But most of the time, the government decided to get a situation of stableness when the expenditure is equal to the revenue. Got it? Now come to the next point, which is the monetary policy, which is formed by the Reserve Bank of India. Okay. It's basically used for controlling the currency, circulation in economy. Currency circulation in economy. Okay. Basically, if the people have more money, they will demand more, and they will demand more. The price of the goods will get higher, and this will lead to the inflation. This will lead to the inflation. So basically, RBI has a charge to maintain the currency circulation in economy so that there should be no inflation in the market, and also there should be no deflation in the market. Means when the people has almost no money to spend on the goods and services, then the price of the goods and services are going down, which causes trouble for the businesses. Got it? So this is the monetary policy. So in this lecture, we have covered about the economics aspect. In our next lecture, we will have a discussion over general science. Till then, thank you.